Hi, how's it going? This this video is going to be a little different because I'm trying up a little bit of a new setting. So this may or may not make my Saturday video. But this video is going to be a little bit about expectations, okay? But just a different way of looking at it. I attended a hypnotherapy session with a man. I believe he has a YouTube channel. His name is Leo Max. And he does a lot of hypnotherapy, working with the subconscious. And a friend of mine actually sent me his monthly. He does like a free monthly hypnotherapy. You can donate like $25 or any amount that you feel it's, you're inspired to leave. I usually do 25. And he talks a little bit about different topics that have kind of come up for him over the month or whatever, because he does this monthly. And then he brings you kind of through this hypnotherapy session, which is more of a guided meditation in a sense. But he kind of sets the stage up front. Like this past one, which was this week, was about self-sabotage and really kind of tapping into yourself as to how that may come out in your life, because self-sabotage comes out in everybody's life to some degree until we heal those aspects. So prior to the meditation, he was talking about kind of the stories we tell ourselves. And he was talking about, he's very spiritual, so he was talking about like divine intuition and things like that. When you get intuitive nudges, I'm going to use the word inspiration here, because sometimes we don't, depending on our background, we don't use the same language, but oftentimes, like I say, a lot of words are synonymous, right? So in this case, I'm going to say when you feel inspired in some way, okay? If you're inspired to go to the store at, I don't know, some random hour, right? And not because of a craving or something, but like you're inspired to go to your favorite store or favorite place, or maybe to go for an ice cream in the summertime, or do something, right? It just kind of comes out of left field and you're inspired to do it. Sometimes, depending on your belief system, I believe everything is connected. So I was really in resonance with what Leo had to say on this topic, because he was saying that oftentimes we're inspired or intuitively driven to do certain things at certain times for whatever reason, to bring us into the path of somebody, or to mirror to somebody, or for them to mirror to you something that you need to learn, or that they need to learn, or whatever the case may be. And how we oftentimes read into that. So like the example he was giving was like, if you are inspired to go out on a date with somebody, right? And I'm not trying to plagiarize, this why Leo Max, go follow him, he's pretty amazing. But if you're inspired to go on a date or to talk to somebody, and however that inspiration comes through for you, because everybody's different. Some people literally hear, if you want to go into the clairs, if you will. Some people just have a knowing, or just feel inspired to do it. I don't know. Again, we're not getting into all of that, okay? Because that leads a whole different topic and debate system, and we don't need to go there. We all feel inspired to do things, okay? So let's keep with what we all feel is that we can relate to. Let's put it that way. So say you're inspired to go on a date. You go on this date. Oftentimes we attach expectation to that. We create stories around that if I'm being pushed to do this, then it must mean such, like da 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 da. And then we create this whole scenario, or even sometimes illusion. And then when it doesn't play out that way, We can go into self-judgment. We can go into judgment of others. We can go into disappointment at the very least, right? Or you have the expectation, if I'm being told to go on this date, this is like literally verbatim to what he was saying. Or say take a job, right? I'm inspired to take this job. I can create a whole scenario around that. Like maybe that's what I'm meant to do for a living, or this is, and then take it all the way to retirement, right? Like I guess this is my purpose type thing. It doesn't have to be that heavy. And I really loved how he normalized that in this session, because we can all relate to that, where it's like, well, if literally God comes down from heaven and tells me take this job, who wouldn't read into that? Right? And that's dramatic. Okay. I'm not saying necessarily, Gabriel came down from heaven and said, you're going to have a baby, that's not what that means. But some people, that may be their experience, depending on their belief systems and everything else. What I'm saying though is when we feel inspired, right? That's very passionate. That can be very motivating and a driving force. And then oftentimes we may self-sabotage, which was the next thing, because maybe we have these underlying subconscious belief systems that I'm not good enough, or they're not good enough. Or if it's not about somebody, maybe it's about that's evil, or that's too good for me, or that's beneath me, or I don't know. There's so many scenarios that could play out. But if I'm led to take a job or to go to the store, it doesn't have to be more than that. Because if I'm living by faith, or if I'm living in flow, if you will, right? Then I just need to go, because maybe there's something that is being orchestrated. And again, this is really going to depend on your belief systems, because some people don't believe there's anything. I do. I believe there's a lot. Okay. There's a lot that we don't see. I've talked about this before with the light spectrum and how much we see versus how much there is. Same with energy and all these other things. The sound spectrum, like we can hear this much, but there's like this much, which is why dogs can hear sounds that we don't hear, right? There's a lot more going on than we are often aware of or understand. Some people would rather not, because maybe that idea is scary for them, which speaks to those underlying belief systems, okay? And I talk about those underlying belief systems in almost all of my videos, okay? So the stories we create around these things often have a lot to do with those underlying belief systems, because that is what we're running on autopilot through. That's the filter in which we engage all of our environment through, is our beliefs. And sometimes we're not even mindful of what those core beliefs are. There are some people that don't even know what their values are, because they've never taken the time to get to know themselves, okay? So, and that's no judgment, but there's always a place to start. We can't go backwards. We can move forward, and we can learn. We can be curious about ourselves and what there is to learn there, so that we can connect those dots and we can create the best life for us. It starts someplace, right? Or it never starts at all, and that could be the self-sabotage. I make it sound like it's easier said than done. I get it. I do. But these are supposed to be kind of roadmaps to help with starting where you're at, wherever that may be. There are people that are far beyond me. Far beyond. That's what, like I said, I went to this hypnotherapy, and I probably will monthly, because he does really good work. So I highly recommend, give him a follow. In any case, I wanted to talk about the stories, the expectations we put on things, which are driven by our belief systems. or our unhealed aspects. You know, if I'm inspired to go out and get a job, and I feel like, well, if I'm being inspired to do this, this must be my purpose, and therefore I need to stay with this for the rest of my life. Well, that's highlighting to me an all or nothing thinking, right? Because what happens if I'm there for a while and then it starts making me miserable? Do I have to stay married to it? Do I have to stay committed to a job that makes me miserable? Some people believe you do. Does that make it true? Maybe for them. Again, to me, that's a limitation for me. Okay, but I would never judge someone who felt that that's what they have to do. You all power to you. If you're living a happy life, if you're not, then hopefully someday you'll ask yourself why. And dig into those belief systems, dig into why those are there. Maybe they were passed down generationally. Maybe it's something that you decided to do because you grew up with flaky people. I don't know. There's no cookie cutter answer for any belief system that we have. There are patterns. There are definitely patterns that we can observe and put together if we're willing to pay attention and be mindful about it. It can be scary work, but it's an illusion of unsafety because it's different than what we're used to. And our brain likes to equate consistency and dependability with safety. But if that dependability and consistency is making us miserable, how safe is it? I don't know. Only you can answer that. Because some people are genuinely in unsafe situations and scenarios. That's not everybody, though. That's not everybody. So it's good stuff to kind of learn and ask yourself. And not be afraid of the answer, because that answer is what's going to open doors for you. Because usually we're not miserable unless our soul recognizes that it wants more. Okay, if our soul is pushing us for more, but our brain is holding us back, okay, that's when the misery comes out, the discomfort, the feeling of being stuck. You're not truly there. It's an illusion that we create for ourselves, another story. You know, it could be like the same story that holds us back. It doesn't have to be, but we're never going to break that until we sit with it and recognize what does make me happy. That's going to vary too from person to person. So keep that in mind. But I found it really fascinating when he was talking about the stories we tell ourselves. Okay? If I'm inspired to go down to the corner store, there may be someone I'm supposed to meet there. Maybe someone I can help. Or maybe someone that can help me with something. Because that's how connected I believe we are. Okay? As people. But if we're not willing to listen to those inspirations or intuitive nudges, right, then we may be missing out on some of the best opportunities in our life. However, we don't want to marry the scenario. Me going to the store or feeling inspired to go to the store doesn't mean that my purpose in life is to buy the store and stay stuck there forever. Okay? So if I am nudged to take a job, that doesn't necessarily have to be my purpose. There may be something there, something else. You know, I say this to my kids all the time. It's like, you know, if you're inspired to go to a particular school and you find that after being there, it's not for you, those are things that you can correct. You can change, okay? You don't even have to say correct, because that can give the illusion that you made a poor choice. But if you were inspired to go there was a reason for that. I don't know. Maybe the job doesn't work out, but you might meet the love of your life. Who knows? But oftentimes we get ourselves stuck, disappointed around the stories we tell ourselves around those things. Okay? So whatever you believe those inspirations or nudges come from, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, okay? If you're meant to go on a date with somebody and you feel that you're really inspired to do that, doesn't mean you're going to marry the person. Those are stories we tell ourselves and then find ourselves getting disappointed when they don't play out the way we envision them. Those can quickly turn into illusions and keep us stuck. So be mindful of the stories you tell yourself around inspirations, because it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can be inspired to work at a particular place for whatever reason, and then when you notice, if you're paying attention and being mindful with yourself, if it starts feeling restrictive, if it starts feeling or pulling you down and making you not happy, then maybe that's the indication that you're not meant to be there anymore. And maybe live less in fear and be more open to those intuitive nudges to see where it takes you. But that's indications of things that we have to work on within ourselves if we feel that we can't, because those are self-sabotaging behaviors. Again, no judgment. We all have them. So I guess that's my spiel. Yeah, give Leo Max a follow. He's pretty amazing. He does a monthly a monthly hypnotherapy group session. And I'll probably start doing those monthly because he's pretty good. He's pretty good. But again, take what resonates for you, what makes sense for you. Sometimes things were good for you at one stage in your life and not at others. Again, stay in flow, pay attention, be mindful. And be mindful of the stories you tell yourself. Okay? All right, have a great one. Talk soon. Bye.